Hey, you weren't doom scrolling just now. You were summoned. By what? You can't quite name. Only that something familiar lives just beyond your reach. A whisper in your bones. A question that's been waiting for your silence. You've felt this before. A brief flicker in conversations. A line in a book that you couldn't stop rereading. The uneasy stillness that arrives when the noise around you runs out. It's subtle, almost uncatchable. Like deja vu that's wearing a mask. This moment, it's not loud. That's how you know it's real. If you listen closely, you'll hear not answers, but alignments in your soul. Words that sound like your own voice, return to you from somewhere just outside of time. I'm not here to teach you. I'm here to remind you of what you almost remember. There's a peculiar sensation that arrives just before every inner awakening. It's not peace, and it's not clarity. It's the shiver. A tremble in your perception, one that's not visible to others, but unmistakable to your deeper self. It feels like walking on a floor that used to hold you, and realizing that it's now made of water. You keep stepping forward because that's what habit demands, but something in you knows solidity was always an illusion. This shiver isn't fear, though it wears similar clothes. It's the recognition that you're standing on the edge of something vast, something that requires surrender. And before you dive, it makes sure that you notice the pressure of everything that you still carry. You were never meant to leap with all that weight on your back. You have to let it go to move forward. Trusting your intuition doesn't always feel like wisdom. Sometimes it feels like betrayal. Your gut pulls you right when logic demands left. Your body whispers stay when all of your plans say go. And in that friction, uncertainty blooms. You second guess, you shrink. You return to the familiar, even as it begins to sour. Even as you feel your inner self dying in an attempt to maintain that feeling of safety. But what if this mistrust is part of the design? What if intuition doesn't come wearing a crown, but a question mark? What if it's supposed to feel like being lost? Lost so that you can learn how to recognize your own signal inside all of the static. We've been taught to trust what repeats, but truth doesn't echo. It hums. Softly. You won't hear it until you stop listening to the louder voices. There's a reason ancient texts were written in riddles. Real truth doesn't explain itself. It evokes. So if what you're feeling makes no sense, good. That means you're getting close. Clarity doesn't descend like sunlight. It condenses like mist, forming shape only when you're still long enough to see it. You might not know what's ahead. You might feel like you're floating between versions of yourself. But this haze isn't a detour. It's the doorway. Let the fog wrap around you. Let confusion be your guide. Because just beyond that veil, you'll find the truth that you've been searching for. Every truth you outgrow will feel like a heartbreak. Not because it was wrong to believe it, but because you needed it to survive. You built your world on it, You shaped your identity around it. And now it dissolves. Quietly, cruelly, like an old friend who doesn't call anymore. This shedding doesn't announce itself. It creeps in through the act of asking better questions. It aches in your refusal to keep pretending. It stings when you realize comfort can no longer camouflage what's gone unlived inside of you for far too long. But let it sting, because the pain of becoming isn't destruction, it's initiation. There comes a moment when your inner landscape stops resembling anything familiar. It's not the old self that you once fit into like a tailored suit, but it's not the new one either. Not yet, at least. Instead, you find yourself standing in a kind of spiritual hallway, barefoot on ice-cold tile, surrounded by locked doors you know you have the keys to, but you just don't remember where you put them at. It's in this place, this space between shedding and sprouting, that many turn back. It feels too ambiguous, too vulnerable. You ask, what if I've gone too far off track? But you haven't left the path. This feeling means you finally stepped onto it. This discomfort isn't a mistake. It's orientation. Not toward the world as it was, but toward the version of reality that requires your full participation to exist. I know you are not actually searching for answers. You might think you are. I mean, certainly it feels that way. But actually, you're thirsting for a frequency that strengthens you. You don't want certainty. You want contact. With something real. With something so alive that it rearranges you. That's why nostalgia haunts you. That's why silence seduces you. You aren't longing for the past. You're longing for presence. The kind that once came naturally, before you were taught to filter yourself into fragments of a being. And the strangest part? What you're seeking isn't somewhere out there. It's pressing up against your skin from the inside. It's the pulse in your neck when you speak a truth that you didn't rehearse. That shiver up your spine when someone really sees you. The pause between inhale and exhale when, for just a split second, you remember. This is it. You're not broken. You're blooming in reverse, unfolding towards the root. No wonder everything feels so upside down in a downside up world. Home isn't a place. It's the moment you stop abandoning yourself. And when you do, the world doesn't feel smaller. It feels wider, richer, messier, more sacred. And the chaos? It's still there, but it no longer owns you. Coming home means standing at the center of that mess with your feet planted and your heart open, not because it's safe, but because you've made peace with the risk. You stop performing certainty. You stop needing to be understood before being honest. You start writing your truths down in pencil, not in ink, because you're willing to edit when the living world shows you something more. And reality, in return, starts to dance with you. It stops being static and it starts responding. You realize that you're not just observing life, you're co-creating it. This isn't the finish line, it's the first step, and it's trembling with invitation. Let me know when you're ready, and we'll take that step together. There's a juncture, a sacred seam in time, when something inside you stops asking for permission and begins moving forward with a kind of quiet gravity that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't scream, it doesn't beg to be noticed, but instead pulls you along gently, almost imperceptibly, into a realization that's so profound and so intricately threaded into your soul that it feels less like a discovery and more like a remembering. And this moment, it doesn't live in calendars or in countdowns or in perfect alignments of circumstance. It lives in the breath that you're taking right now, in the ache that never quite let up, in the daydream that kept returning even when logic dismissed it, and especially in the strange pull that you feel when everything else told you to settle, but something deeper urged you to look again, to listen harder, to feel longer. Because this is not a rehearsal. There is no later when you suddenly become worthy. No checklist that you need to complete before permission is granted to you. This, right now, is the moment. Not because everything is figured out yet, but because nothing has to be. Not because you've finished becoming, but because you finally stopped resisting the process. Waiting, though often cloaked in wisdom, can be a clever disguise for fear. And while there is no need to rush, there is every reason to begin. Not for productivity, not for performance, but because the becoming has already begun, and each day that you hesitate, you delay your reunion with the truth that's been patiently constructing a space inside you and is ready to bloom. You are not stepping into something foreign. You are returning, not just to yourself, but to the rhythm that you've always carried, the deep pulse beneath all the noise, the part of you that never doubted, even when your mind did. The path forward isn't somewhere out there. It's opening up under your feet the moment that you claim this season as your own. This right now is not coincidence. This is initiation. And it's arriving not with fanfare, but with a quiet hush. If you feel tired, I understand. If you feel confused, I've been there. If your chest tightens when the silence stretches on too long, know that's where I found my clearest truths. We're all unraveling and rebuilding all at the same time. Grieving old selves and meeting new ones, touching the sacred through ordinary moments, carrying 100 silent battles while still trying to laugh at bad jokes and remember birthdays. You are not late. You are not broken. And you are not alone. Breathe in slowly. Not because it fixes everything, but because it reminds you that you're still here, still capable, still worthy, still becoming. And in that breath, let it settle. Perhaps for the first time in a very long time, that it's finally safe to trust yourself fully. Welcome home, my friend.